Magandang umaga, maayong buntag, and good morning. If you're new to the channel, my name is Sean, my wife's name is G, and we are living in the Philippines. We are originally from America, Texas to be exact, and about 4 years ago we decided to come out to the Philippines and live our life here. And right now, I am going to be doing a review by myself of what it's been like to live here. If you guys watched the last video, you'll see that we got G a new motorbike, and right now she is out practicing again. So I'm sitting out here in a bamboo kubo that's behind our apartment building. It's very hot out today, but it is nice to have a little bit of shade, so that's good. G keeps going back and forth around here, and so I gotta make sure that she hasn't fallen or anything. I got my phone ready just in case she crashes and needs to call me, but so far she's been doing really good. I'm really proud of her. Today is going to be my review, my personal review of living in the Philippines for about 3 months now. It's actually a couple days over that, but 3 months. I'm going to be honest, it feels like we've been here a lot longer, but I think that's just mainly because of all the stuff that we've done so far. Point being, like, we were in Manila, we were staying in Taguig for like 5 weeks, and then we stayed over in Malate for another month, and then now we've been kind of running around and finally made it down to Moabol, Cebu, and it's just been a lot. I feel like since we've been kind of doing stuff all over the place and kind of moving around a lot, it just felt like we've been here for a super long time. And it really hasn't been that long. It's only been 3 months, right? So I want to talk about what my feelings are about being here and my experience, and just kind of going over a few points that maybe might be helpful for you guys if you're thinking about coming out here, or maybe if you're already here and you just want a different perspective. Point number one, I want to talk about the cost of living, right? The cost of living is really the number one reason why G and I came out to the Philippines. It's not because we hate America. It's not because we felt like we needed to leave or some other dramatic BS. The fact is, we love America. We're both American citizens. I've lived there my entire life. She's lived there for like 16 years. We love the country, right? We love the people and everything. The cost of living in America is very high right now. And even talking to a friend of mine last night, he was telling me about how much it costs to replace the siding on his house. Different things here and there that you just have to have this huge budget for. One of those things being like being able to afford to pay for food, housing, entertainment, all that kind of stuff. And while we do love America, it has gotten so expensive. The cost of living here in the Philippines is usually a lot cheaper than back in the US. And I say usually because not everything is. If you want American food products, it's usually going to cost more. Sometimes it's actually about the same price. Like I've seen bags of Lay's potato chips, and they were about $3 to $3.50, which is pretty much the same price as back home. But the other day I ended up paying $8 for a jar of Vlasic pickles, which we can get in the US for a couple bucks or something like that, but because it had to be imported here, it costs a lot more. That's definitely not something that we're going to be buying very often, of course, but just a little bit of a reminder of home and a little bit of luxury as well. Right now we're going to talk about the cost of living in regards to finding a house or an apartment to rent. And as you guys have probably seen in our previous videos, our current apartment is a 1-bedroom. It's got plenty of space for the two of us, and it is costing us $340 per month. That's very cheap in comparison to American standards. Now, I have seen other places that go for $300 a month. I've seen other places go for $200, $250 a month. It's really just a matter of your location and also what you're willing to deal with. Because there are some places that do not come furnished and they'll be a little bit cheaper, while there are a lot of places that do come furnished because they know foreigners like us, we just moved here, we don't have a bunch of stuff to like bring with us. We don't have a bed and a dresser and TV and all that. Those places are going to cost a little bit more because they've provided these things for you. As far as renting houses, we have seen houses that were fairly large, like 4 bedrooms, that go for about 1,000 US dollars a month. Now, that might seem like a lot in comparison to the rest of the Philippines, where again, we're paying $340 a month. But back in the US, if you were going to rent a 4 bedroom house, really depends on where you're at, but in Texas, where we were from, it would probably cost minimum $1,500 for a small, no frills house, and it's not going to be furnished like at all. Probably it might have a fridge and a couple other little things, but that's it. And then there are other places that are a little bit, more upscale. Um, like our house, we would have to rent it out for $2,500 a month just to break even with our mortgage payment and with insurance and taxes and all that. All right, y'all, it is the next day. I had to give up on the video yesterday because my allergies were just kicking way too hard. I kept coughing and sniffing and just couldn't talk right. So we're back at it today. We're back to the cost of living breakdown. We were talking about cost of food and the cost of apartments and houses and renting and all that. Food here in the Philippines isn't nearly as cheap as G and I thought it was going to be. Yes, there are some items that are pretty cheap, especially if you go to like the wet markets out in the province, it's going to be a lot cheaper. But to be honest, the wet markets in Manila and like the bigger cities, those actually were pretty expensive. We had one guy trying to sell G a crab, and it was a big crab, it was alive and everything, but he wanted $20 for it. And to me, as an American coming to the Philippines to save money, I'm thinking $20 for one crab, like that seems excessive. And then we come out to the province, and yeah, it is quite a bit cheaper to a degree. However, out here in the province, we don't have access to a lot of other things. Yes, we have a store called Gaisano here, and they have the grocery store that's underneath their little mall, and they have a bunch of different products, but they don't have nearly as much of a variety of all the different things that you can possibly get, especially like in Manila or Cebu City. And especially when it comes to beef. Just the other day, we went into the store, and the only beef that they had was ground beef. And I don't know why they do it this way. Vegetables, they pack all the vegetables in plastic. Like they wrap everything, the vegetables and the fruits. But then when it comes to the meat, like none of it is wrapped up. In America, if you're going to buy ground beef, it's either going to be in this like tube, which is, wrapped in plastic, or you're going to get like this, like a foam square with the meat on top of it and plastic over the top, so it's wrapped up. But they're also all kept in a fridge area where it's extra cool. While here in Gaisano and other places in the Philippines, it's like they don't keep their meat fresh like that. They don't keep it cooler. I know that a lot of it they end up freezing because they have it imported and everything. They take the frozen meat and they just set it out without being refrigerated, and that stuff will be out all day long, and you don't know if it's any good. I mean, sometimes it starts turning brown and you don't really want to eat that. But the fact that there was only one option for beef being ground beef, and there's no option for like percentage of fat or anything like that. There's like, it's one pile of ground beef and that's it. There were no steaks, there were no chuck roasts, there was no brisket, there was none of the good stuff like we have back home that is readily available like all the time. To top it off, when you do find beef here, it is actually more expensive than what you would find in the US because the Philippines is not really a beef society. Yes, some of their dishes have beef in it, but the majority of what they cook is going to be pork and chicken, mainly pork. So when a country doesn't usually eat a whole lot of beef, they're not going to bring in a lot of beef. And so the beef that they do bring in is probably going to be for foreigners, and it's going to be more expensive. Just yesterday afternoon, G and I went over to the Panaksama area, actually just downtown Mobile, and we ended up finding another frozen food store. We'll have to take you guys in there so you know what we mean. But you walk in, and then they have like 4 or 5 different big freezers. And in these freezers, they have cheese, butter, milk, well, maybe not milk in the freezer, but sausages, and then they have some beef products. Like yesterday, we found steaks. Now, these steaks, they said that they had a sticker on it, and it said it was imported from the U.S. as corn-fed beef. And of course, it's frozen, right? But the steaks themselves were actually quite thin. Like, they were not super big. A lot of fat in them, which G likes that, so that's fine. But each of these steaks, which were ribeyes, I believe, they were $15 a piece, which, if you're kind of comparing to the cost back in the US, that is cheaper. But like in Texas, we would get a stack of 4 steaks and it would cost about $40 to $50, right? And so that would last us at least 2 meals, because she would have one, I would have one. And if you look at it that way, then that's about $10 per steak, and those steaks are thick. So there is a difference when you're trying to find things that you like from back home here. Can you find them? Yeah, sometimes. Not all the time. And one of the, I guess, annoying things is you have to go to 3 different stores to get what you need. And, that's just the way it is here when you're living in the province. If you want more of the immediate luxury and having access to variety and all that, it's best if you live in the big city, or at least really close to it. Like I said before, G and I are going to hop in the truck and we're going to drive up to Cebu City here either tomorrow or the next day or something. We have a cooler now, got it off of Lazada. It's like their version of Amazon. And when we go up to Cebu, we're going to take care of some things, and then we're also going to grab a bunch of meat and some other food products from SNR. SNR is like their Costco. And we got a membership to SNR back when we were in Manila. Going out to eat at restaurants is also cheaper than the US. It's not like dirt cheap. You're not going to be paying like $2 for a meal if you go to a nice restaurant here. But you are going to be paying around $20. G and I generally get like one meal between us, and then we get another meal that we share, and then a couple of drinks like mango shakes or something like that. And that generally costs between $20 and $30. Now, when you're trying to move to another country and save money, yeah, that's kind of hitting the budget a little bit, but at the same time, when you're comparing it to the US, again, it's like half the price. When we went to Chipotle, we got burrito bowls and stuff like that. That was $15 a piece, which comes out to over $30 after taxes without a drink. Okay, so $20, you're getting a meal and drinks, and you're getting to sit right on the ocean, and you see the ocean, and you're like in this tropical place, versus going to Chipotle and having to pay $30+ for a burrito bowl, which, by the way, they are very good. They're tasty. But the cost is definitely a lot more back in the US than it is here. Please be aware that not all restaurants are cheap like this. And when I say cheap, again, about half the price. We have gone to restaurants that were kind of on the ocean, and it cost us like $45 to $50 for the both of us. But at the same time, again, we tend to order 3 or 4 meals and then get drinks on top of it. So it can be pretty expensive. But if you were going to go and get 1 meal per person and then like maybe just 1 drink or just water or something, yeah, it's going to be a lot cheaper. Another item that you guys really might enjoy is massages. Massages, again, back in the US would range. I mean, if you got a membership somewhere, it would be $60 a month and you could only get 1. I think it was like one massage a month for that. And then other places would be 70, 75. We even found a girl that would come to our house and she charged like $70 for a massage. Plus, if she wasn't in the area already, she would charge $20 just to drive out there. And then on top of that, you got to tip them $10, $20, whatever you feel comfortable with, right? Here, massages are no joke, between like $7 and $15 depending on how long and what service you're getting. And then on top of that, they are more than happy with getting 50 to 100 pesos, which is a dollar or two. It's just mind blowing the difference in cost for that. So here, and we'll present this in our monthly cost video here soon, we can literally get 10 massages or more for the same price as one back in the US. That's huge. That's really huge. Our next topic is going to be daily life and practical reality. Internet here is generally going to be pretty good. I know that might be surprising, but a lot of places here, as long as you're relatively close to even a small city, you can get good internet speeds. Right now, we are just down the road from downtown Moalboal, which is still a province, right? We're not in the big city. We're South Cebu. We're away from everything big, but we are still clocking about 150 to 200 megabits per second download speeds. And crazy enough, it's still blowing my mind. I clocked 170 megs for upload speeds, which is great for content creators who are trying to upload to YouTube and everything. The weird thing is that even though we have such good speeds sometimes, the internet ends up getting laggy and it takes a while for things to load and everything to process and go through. So how much of it is actually usable in at true speed, I don't know. It depends on the day. However, like in one of our other previous videos where we went to Bohol a couple years ago, it was a bird. You get distracted. We're out here in the province, right? So you got to be aware of everything out here. Although the Philippines doesn't really have any like big time natural predators, they have some snakes and everything, spiders and whatnot. But like you're not dealing with lions and tigers and bears. Anyways, where was I? The Airbnb in Bohol that we went to, it was a beautiful place, outside and inside, but the internet was not really usable. It would let you connect and then it would drop you. And even when you were connected for long enough to actually be able to use it, it wasn't very fast. So it really just depends on what service providers are around you and how much people are paying for that service. This one, like I said, is really good. When we end up buying land and building a house, we already have Starlink, and Starlink is pretty decent. It ranges between like 50 and 150 megs, which is okay. I mean, back in Texas, we had 1,000 megabits per second, which was pretty good, and that was only like $20 or $30 a month more than what we would pay for Starlink here. Starlink here is now about $65 a month for the regular plan, and I mean, it works pretty good. We tried it in Manila, but there was like an overhang kind of blocking the satellite and everything. So we'll see what it's like when it's actually out in the open. But one of the main reasons why I wanted to get Starlink is because we will have internet all the time. Now, in the Philippines, it's known to have brownouts and blackouts, so there's no power. What happens when there's no power in the city? Well, that means the internet's not going to get to you even if you have solar. But if we have Starlink and we have solar, then we'll have power and internet and we won't have an issue. That being said about the brownouts and blackouts, the last time that G and I were here in Moalboal, we were here for like 3 or 4 days and there was one brownout and it lasted for like 2 or 3 hours. But since we've been back here, there hasn't been a single brownout. We haven't had any issues with power. It's been good the whole time. So I don't know if they have improved their infrastructure or if it's just the issue that happened before just isn't happening now. As far as water quality, now I know that a lot of people say when you go to the Philippines, don't drink the tap water. And that can be true, especially if you're just here visiting, because your stomach's not going to be used to the bacteria that's in the water here. I did read while we were in Manila that the water there should be actually pretty clean and we shouldn't have any issues because they do filter it in the big city. And to be honest, I use the water all the time to brush my teeth and do other things like that. And I don't know, I got sick to my stomach a few times, but I feel like that was from the food and not from the water. It's really hard to say. Since we've been here in Moalboal, I think I've had a little bit of an upset stomach here and there, but I don't think it's from the water. So far, the water has been pretty clear, and I'm not really worried about it because, again, I brush my teeth with it every day and we shower with it. I feel like we could probably cook with it and be fine. But again, if you're moving out here, you definitely need to start drinking the water, even if it's going to make you a little bit sick, because you got to get used to it at some point. Another big topic item is going to be healthcare, right? As you guys have probably seen in our previous videos, we've talked about it being a big deal because we are trying to find land so that we can build our forever home. And the idea is that we're going to live there forever, right? And being there forever, this is going to be like 10, 20, 30 years down the road. I'm 40 right now, right? If I hit 60 and I have a medical issue, I don't want to go to a clinic right down the road that's not going to be able to help me out. For example, when I burned my leg on our last trip, we went to a few different clinics and they really didn't have the necessary tools to help out with everything. And on top of that, they don't always have the right knowledge to be able to handle situations. If I have a heart attack or if G falls off of her motorbike, I don't want to have to rely on a clinic when we really could use a big hospital. And I know the irony of that is that we're about 3 hours from Cebu City right now. So you have an emergency, you don't necessarily have the time to drive 3 hours. There is a hospital down in Badian, which is down the road from here. We see ambulances going there all the time. So if you're worried about there not being any ambulances, there's actually quite a few. It's interesting. We didn't think that there were going to be this many. But that's good, right? If there's an emergency, hopefully the hospital here can help us out with that. And then if we have any other bigger issues that need more care, we can drive up to Cebu 3 hours from here and take care of that. If you're worried about there being pharmacies, they actually do have a few here in town. Here in Cebu, I've noticed that the name of them is the Rose Pharmacy. And there's actually one down the road here. It's right next to Mr. DIY and Gaisano, so it's not too far. And again, it's not going to be like America where you can go into Walmart or H-E-B or Smith's or something and you can walk down the medical aisle and get all the different things that you need. Here you have to go to the pharmacy for the majority of things. And while that can be annoying, that's just the way it is here, and I don't think that that's going to change anytime soon. So when you're looking for a place to live and maybe you need medications and things like that, I would just recommend double checking that there's a pharmacy within relative driving distance. Visa extensions and visa help and all that kind of stuff. If you're a foreigner who's here on a tourist visa, or if you're here on a married visa, or even your SRRV, here in Moalboal, I have seen one visa office, and I don't know how good they are. But at the same time, again, if you're looking to go to Cebu City and get some other things like food and, maybe some entertainment, you can just go to the immigration offices up there, right? But here, it's kind of limited because, again, we're out in the province, and that's, again, just what we're dealing with. So, again, when you're looking for where you want to live, just be aware of how far you want to drive to be able to handle that situation. I don't know how much of this stuff can be done online. I'm here on a marriage visa, the 13A marriage visa, so I'm good for 5 years. Other than that, foreigners now have to do the yearly check-in between the beginning of January and the end of February, which you can do in person if you find an immigration office, but I did mine online, and that cost me a 1,200 peso fee, as well as the 300 peso normal appointment extension or check-in fee. So it was like 1,500 pesos total, or a bit over $20, which $20 a year, that's not bad. Is it kind of crazy that they're charging 1,200 pesos just to do it online? Yeah. I mean, it's much more convenient for us, sure, but it's also very convenient for the people who work for the immigration office instead of having to deal with lines of people trying to come check in. I will say that daily life here in the Philippines, especially if you're retired like we are, it's a lot slower. And, you know, sure, in the US, you can find places out in the countryside that are going to be just as slow. And you can even be, you know, relatively in the city. Like our place in San Antonio, we weren't in downtown, we were outside in the suburbs. But, you know, it could be considered slow out there as well. But we're not just talking about being at your house or your apartment or anything. It's also, we're talking about the people and the roads and the grocery stores and everything. When you get out on the road, people are driving slower for the most part. Yeah, you're gonna find motorbikes and cars that like to zoom and like pass as many people as they possibly can. But you know, a lot of people are driving slower. They're not in a huge rush. And then you go to the grocery store, and in the grocery store, they don't have the moving conveyor belts for all the food to go down the line. You put your stuff on the counter, and then you gotta help push it forward. And when you go to the grocery store to get all this stuff done, like it can take you an extra 20 to 30 minutes versus from back home, you know, depending on how things go. And then when you have a lot of people who are coming in to buy items for their sari stores, chips and drinks and all that kind of stuff, they're buying in bulk. And so when the cash register is going slow and they have all these items to go through, obviously it's going to make it so that you're moving slower as well. To a degree, I actually like that. Sometimes I like service and grocery store things to be quick because I want to get in, I want to get out, and I want to be done. Now that we're retired, we're not so much in a rush. And if it takes an extra 5-10 minutes, extra 20 minutes overall, it's not going to really harm our day. We're not getting stuck in traffic for 45 minutes going to work and stuck in traffic again coming home. So, you know, overall, we are saving time by being here, even though some things are taking longer than back home. And that's okay. Here you can sit outside and have a nice breeze, even though it's actually quite hot today, and listen to the roosters going. They're always, I don't know what it is. Maybe people just want roosters so that they can keep having more chickens. And maybe people want them to protect their chickens from something else. I don't know, because there really aren't predators here. But you're going to hear roosters all over the Philippines. And that is a big thing to check on before you buy land or buy a house, because if you guys watch our previous video, you'll see we went to go check out land, and two separate neighbors each had like 15 to 20 roosters. And if you didn't know, rooster fighting, cockfighting is actually legal here in the Philippines. So people raise roosters that many at a time to fight. And that's how they make money. Now I want to talk about some of the pros of living here. And one thing is that the people are very friendly. I will say that a lot of YouTube videos make it out to be like Filipinos are constantly coming up to foreigners and saying hi and inviting them over for food and big old smiles on their face all the time. But that's not true. Usually when G and I are walking around, I get a lot of people staring at me. They'll look at me. And of course, when we're away from the touristy areas, because I mean, that's normal over there. But away from there, people I catch people staring at me all the time. They're checking me out. They're seeing what is the foreigner doing here. And I get it. That's fine. I don't really mind, honestly. I get it. I'm the odd man out. But I will say we have had zero problems with people. Nobody's ever come at me in a real negative way. Like I've had, a couple people do stuff that was just kind of off, but not anywhere where I felt like I was in danger. Like even in Manila or anywhere here in Cebu, we haven't had any real issues. I will say that, being in Cebu, they speak Bisaya, and we were down at Panang Sama beach area the other day, and this guy was trying to sell us the pearl bracelets. I'm pretty sure they're fake and they buy them from China, but a lot of these guys will take a lighter and they'll try and like light up the pearls as if to show you that it's real. I have no idea if it's real or not. I'm going to assume not, but you never know. Maybe these guys are collecting the pearls from the ocean and they're trying to sell them, but the price that they're selling them is super cheap, so probably not real. Anyway, the guy tried to sell some to G because, she's Filipino, so they always gravitate towards her first when we're together. But then when she said no, he came to me. I'm like, okay, well, my wife already said no. What makes you think I'm going to change the answer? And I said, Hindi salamat, Hindi salamat, which means no thank you. But Hindi is Tagalog, which is what they speak in Manila and other parts of the Philippines. It's the main national language, but here they speak Bisaya. And because I wasn't speaking Bisaya, he was kind of mocking me, but I didn't even notice. G caught it and she like stared at him. But I guess he was like, oh, Hindi salamat, because he was mad that I didn't want to buy anything from him, even though I'm trying to speak the language, I'm trying to interact. He just wasn't having it. And I don't know, maybe he's just having a bad day. He's not making enough sales. I don't know. I can imagine that they're making a lot of money doing this, so it can be stressful at times. Again, I'm not going to start a fight over it or anything like that, but a couple small interactions like that have happened, but nobody's ever tried to fight me or get in the way between G and I or anything crazy like that. Another thing is that, and I'm actually going to do a video on this at some point, but you're going to see a lot of vloggers say that everyone in the Philippines speaks English. And that is a lie. It's a flat out lie. You cannot generalize an entire country and say everyone speaks English. That'd be like saying that everyone in Texas can speak Spanish because we're right on the border, and that's not true. Do a lot of people speak Spanish over there? Yes. Even non-Hispanics can speak Spanish down there. But not everybody. Same here in the Philippines. While English is considered technically the second language of the country, not everybody is going to speak it to a point where they can have like a full-on conversation, right? And that's fine. I personally don't have a problem with it because this isn't my country, right? I mean, yeah, I live here now. I'm trying to make it my country. I live here. I don't expect everyone to speak English to me because, let's be honest, their language is Tagalog. It's Bisaya. It's Ilocano. It's Waray. It's all these other different languages, right? While not everybody here in the Philippines speaks English or speaks it fluently, you're still going to come across some people who do know a few words and you may be able to communicate to a degree. I will say that a big positive is that a lot of street signs, road signs, business signs, and business information is actually all in English. We've been to the Gaisano Mall here many times, and many times I've heard the intercom going, and it's some kind of a message that's in complete English, which is helpful for me, right? Helpful for foreigners who only speak English, or for foreigners who speak another language and English, but they don't know Tagalog or Bisaya yet. However, moving to a country, you should never expect that country to speak your language. I don't like it when people move to America and refuse to learn English. You've been there for 10, 20 years and you can't speak any English? That's a problem. The language is English in America. I don't care what anybody says. The Constitution was written in English. The country was founded in English. Yes, is it a melting pot for other countries coming in? Sure. But America is English, and that is the culture. Plain and simple. Moving here to the Philippines, I do not come up to somebody and expect them to speak full-on English. I don't. I would expect them to speak Tagalog or Bisaya, and if they speak English, that's fantastic. But I'm not going to get mad if they don't. I'm not going to get upset. I'm not going to, try and throw out some kind of an attitude because they don't understand what I'm saying. I am in their country, plain and simple. I live here now. I'm trying to integrate. I am trying to be a part of this society while still being an American. And that means I need to learn the language. And that's why you guys will hear me in videos speaking Bisaya or Tagalog every once in a while. Because I do want to be a part of this. But again, it is very helpful that people do speak English. Some people do speak English. And signs and things are written in English. On top of the positive people and the amount of English it is here in this country, I will say that a huge positive is going to be the nature. Nature here is absolutely beautiful. Sure, maybe if you grew up here, you're used to it. You've lived here for a long time, you're used to it. But coming from Montana and from Texas in the US, we don't have palm trees. We don't have coconut trees. We don't have banana trees just on the road and all this other really neat stuff. Like, it's beautiful out here. We've got mountains. We've got beautiful beaches. Like, we did a video on Lambog Beach. We'll do another video here soon of Panagsama, which isn't really a good beach. It's more rocky, but they have really nice reefs over there with a lot of fish and sea turtles and everything. But all over the Philippines, you're going to find beautiful nature, and you're not going to be able to get that back in the US or, potentially the country that you came from. I really do enjoy how Gia and I can hop on the motorbike, we can hop in the truck, and within, 10, maybe even 20 minutes, we can be at a beach, a beautiful beach, not just some nasty rocks with brown water and everything. Because let's be honest, the beaches in the Gulf of Mexico they're not great, right? The water's nasty. It's all brown and gross all the time. But here, the water is just blue and incredible. And I gotta say, so far my favorite moments here in the Philippines since we've been here for 3 months, it's gotta be the beaches. It really does. The beaches have been incredible. It's so much fun just jumping in the ocean and cooling off during a hot day and feeling the waves hitting you and everything, and it doesn't cost that much to do it. Here, you have to pay an environmental fee. I don't know what they're using that money for, whether it's to clean up the beaches or what, but it's pretty inexpensive. It's less than $1 per person. On top of that, usually wherever you go, you're gonna have to pay for parking. The truck, 100 pesos, which is less than $2. I think it's like $1.75. A motorbike, it's like 50 pesos, sometimes 25 pesos. It really depends on where you're at. But again, we're talking about $1. So $2 to $3 to go to a really nice beach, clear blue water, have a great day. It's really not that bad. It's inexpensive, and you're at a tropical location. It's incredible. And then, of course, a lot of these places, they have like little restaurants there where they're cooking barbecue, or they've got drinks and all sorts of stuff to take care of you while you're there. Another great one is riding a motorbike here. Yes, it can be kind of crazy with all the tricycles and the other motorbikes and the cars and vans trying to pass you.
You've got the big, huge buses that are trying to get from one city to another as quickly as possible, and they're passing you. But it's just the freedom of being on a bike on the open road here. And in the city, you really have to worry about the traffic enforcers like at the big main intersections. Out here, there aren't nearly as many intersections, right? So they have traffic enforcers out here, but they're not so, I guess, uptight as the big city, I would say. And you don't have a bunch of police cars on the road constantly monitoring what everybody is doing, which on one hand, that can be a bad thing because people are parking in the street on the highway. They're parking in your lane on the highway. People are driving a little crazy. They're driving against traffic in the other lane. All sorts of stuff is happening. But then at the same time, you're not constantly worried about getting pulled over for doing something, maybe a little silly. All right, so the next part is going to be cons and frustrations of living here in the Philippines. And I want you guys to understand that when you're listening to this is not me trying to complain. This is just me telling you guys my feelings about the situation, how it is to live here, and what to expect. Because I know a lot of vloggers, they only show the really good parts of the Philippines and other countries and whatnot, and they don't tell you the truth. They don't show you all the back end stuff of what's happening and the frustrations and just the questionable things that make you wonder, why is that happening? In the big cities here, it's honestly going to be like any other country. There's a lot of pollution, there's a lot of traffic, and there's a lot of garbage, right? It's just, I don't know, it's just like big city life. Not to mention, there are plenty of places here that smell like straight up sewage. And I don't understand, a lot of people just walk right through it and it doesn't faze them at all. I don't know how. And like we've been to some areas and it was so strong, like it was just, it'll knock you down. Out here in the province, that's not nearly as bad as far as the sewage smell and traffic and pollution and everything. Of course, sure, there's a little bit of pollution with all the motorbikes and everything, but you have a lot cleaner air out here. It is actually quite nice and refreshing. I will say that you are still going to come across areas where there's going to be a lot of trash. I feel like the country just needs to put together some kind of garbage disposal, because out here, like we take our trash out to the front gate and um, the caretakers here take care of it, right? We don't have to worry about it. But where does it go? Are there big trash trucks that are coming out here to pick it up? Where are they taking the trash from there? I will say that yesterday when we were out, I did see a big trash truck like what we would have in America over in Moalboal. So I imagine that they're doing pretty good on that. But beyond just the trash being picked up, it's people throwing it on the ground. I've seen numerous people take cigarettes or other trash and just throw it, right? And I've seen people do it right off of a motorbike. They're just taking a handful of trash or something and they just throw it into the bushes right next to the highway. And yes, this happens in America. It happens in other countries. I'm not saying that it doesn't. However, here, I do see areas with a lot of trash on the side of the road, and that's not a good thing. We got to keep this place clean and keep the nature beautiful. Another big con for me is going to be the weather sometimes. While we're not going to have winter here, it's not going to get freezing temperatures and everything, it does get very hot here. On top of that, the humidity level is very high. Back in Texas, yes, it's hot and humid there as well, but a lot of the times we were inside. I know a lot of people work outside every day, and so they'd be used to it and they'd be fine coming out here. But for me, I worked in an office setting. I go home, I'd be inside, and whenever I needed to do chores and stuff outside, I'd do it in the morning when it was cooler. Here, it seems to kind of be hot all the time, except for some days when it's been raining and whatnot, the temperature goes down, but the humidity is very high. And you're going to notice it going around town and, even being in your own home sometimes. We have fans that are constantly going. And at nighttime, we definitely have the aircon going. Another big issue is typhoons and earthquakes. I just saw the biggest cockroach running across the kitchen floor, so I had to go pick it up. That was actually the biggest one I've seen since we've been in the Philippines. We had a bunch in our apartment in Malate over in Manila, but they were like really small. This one was big. But I took care of him. So again, going back to typhoons and earthquakes, this is something where you're going to want to Google the historical references of where storms have come through the country, where they've hit the hardest, and if the place that you're wanting to move to is actually going to be safe. I know that there are plenty of places here in the Philippines that are beautiful, but you may not necessarily want to live there because of typhoons coming through. You know, you spend a bunch of money on building a nice new house and then it gets torn up. That's not going to be fun, and it can be dangerous because people do die. I will say that one thing is that you're going to want to stay away from rivers. Okay? Here in the Philippines, when you hear about the flooding that happens, it's usually by the rivers, from what I've found. And so all the water that's coming from the storm hits the mountains and comes down and hits the river and then floods everything next to it. Would it be cool to live right next to the river? Sure. But again, look at historical references. Look at what happened in Talisay last year. Different areas of Cebu, it flooded really, really badly to the point where cars were like stacked on top of each other. If you want to live next to a river, I suggest being up on a mountainside looking down. That way you're not going to flood. Earthquakes can also be very bad here. When we were in Daan Bantayan, up north of Cebu, we saw the coolest, like, old Spanish Catholic church. And because of the earthquakes that had happened also last year, half of the church in the front had completely collapsed. It was crazy. Like, we felt really bad because, I mean, that church had been there for hundreds of years probably. And it just crumbled because of the huge earthquake that came through. And these are not small. Like, I believe it was like a 6 or something, maybe even higher. One of the next cons that I personally really don't like are the kind of bugs that we have here in the Philippines. While most of the time it doesn't really bother me, Texas had some nasty bugs as well. I don't do spiders. I really don't do spiders. And here's a clip of one that we actually found in our apartment a couple days ago. And I'm assuming it just crawled in from the gap that was underneath the door.
Jesus, that thing is fucked.
Here.
This is Jurassic Park. Oh, fuck.
What the fuck is that?
Okay.
That thing is huge.
Okay, just get out of here so
We
it
need a
doesn't run to
gun.
you. Just get out of here, babe, so it doesn't run to you.
Jesus.
Okay,
Alright,
I
hold
need
on.
a
Let's think
chair.
of something.
I need a chair. I can't reach it. But get ready, because it's gonna crawl on the ground. You're gonna be running. Come here, dude. Yeah, right there. Go this way. Right there. Whoa.
That thing is way too big to be left alive.
It doesn't bite, babe.
Yes, they do.
Since then, I've actually bought some weather seals that go underneath the door to kind of take that gap away and prevent bugs from coming in, and especially in the bedroom, letting the aircon come out. So hopefully that'll help keep these giant spiders out, because that thing was nasty. Let me know in the comments if you've ever seen a spider that big, or if it was like in your home. Apparently there are snakes here in the Philippines as well. Of course, it's a tropical place. You're gonna have snakes. The last trip that we were here, And this entire time now, I have not seen a single snake. So I will say, maybe they are more prominent in different areas than others, but here in Moabol, I haven't seen a single one. It's not like other places where they're just kind of like all over the road and they're all over the place. I'm not saying they don't exist because I know they do, but since I've been here, since we've been here, I haven't seen any. None. Which I don't mind snakes, honestly. I'm not bothered by them. G absolutely hates them. So I hate spiders, she hates snakes, we swap. All right, guys, so this is where it gets pretty deep, right? Question is, we've been here for 3 months, are we going to stay? Technically, we don't have to stay in the Philippines. We could go back to the US if we wanted. We could move back, we could ship our stuff back, we could sell our stuff, we could just give it away, whatever. We could go back to the US. Our house in Texas still hasn't sold yet, which is a bummer because it's been on the market for like 7 months. And we need the equity from that to pay for our new house, or pay for our land and the new house and everything. But on top of that, we're still making the monthly mortgage payments. And the interest on that, we're never going to get that money back. So, being here in the Philippines for 3 months, are we going to stay? Are we going to go back to the US? I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. When we got to Daan Bantayan, up on the north part of Cebu, I was so stressed out and so like just kind of depressed and just everything being thrown at us this whole time. It was a lot, you know. I've been driving in America for 24 years and I hadn't been pulled over. I hadn't, right? I'm a good driver. I pay attention to the rules and the laws of the road and everything. And I just never got in trouble. Here, I got pulled over within the first week, you know, and that was just a situation that, yeah, it was my fault to a degree, but also getting used to the fact of like how people drive here, how things are in the big city, because I've never really driven in the big city like that, like not New York or Chicago or something, relatively equivalent. And then having the dogs barking in the truck all the time whenever we try to go anywhere, and then not having our own home. We don't have all of our own stuff. We're missing a lot of things that we need as far as like having a comfortable life, but we didn't want to buy them yet because we were still traveling around and we had to fit everything in the truck. And so I was super stressed out, you know, and I missed home. I missed our house. I missed the convenience of the grocery store being 5 minutes down the road and having everything that we needed. I missed our friends, our family, you know, everything. And moving to another country, whether it's the Philippines or somewhere else, it's not just sell your stuff and go and then it's all happy days. It's not. And I know a lot of people jump on YouTube and they act like it is, but it really isn't. Sure, you're going to have a good time. You're going to meet some cool people. And for you single guys, you'll probably meet a lady. You'll get to go to the beach. You'll get to go hiking in the mountains. You'll get to do all these, you know, fun things. But you're probably going to miss home. You're going to miss your life that you left behind. And that's okay, right? That's normal. That's what a lot of people end up going through. And for me, being 40 years old and leaving everything behind, it was hard, right? Call it a midlife crisis if you will, but it was hard. And especially trying to get used to a completely new culture, a completely new country and how they do things here, like it was a lot. And so while we were sitting there at our Airbnb, I straight up broke down and I told G, I was like, I don't think I can do this. I'm thinking about the future. I'm thinking about living here full time for the rest of our life. Well, yeah, we are going to go visit the US and see our families, you know, once a year for however long we want and everything. But the idea of staying here and living here was really getting to me, and I didn't think that I could do it. I didn't. It was hitting me really hard, and I was pretty much ready to give up. I was ready to get rid of our stuff here or ship it back to Texas or wherever and start our life over back in the US. Because again, G and I didn't leave because we felt like we had to. We love America. We love it there. It's just very expensive to live there now. But towards the beginning of us being here, G kind of had, relative same feelings of, being frustrated and not wanting to be here. And I helped talk her down. And in this situation, she helped talk me down. She said, you know what, at least give it a year and see how you feel. And since we've been here in Moalboal and we found property that we want to buy, she's definitely checking me in and saying, okay, are you sure that you want to buy this property? Are you sure that you want to stay here? And ultimately the answer is right now, yes. We are going to stay as long as we possibly can. The anxiety and the stress and everything that I feel isn't nearly as bad being here in the province. Driving on the roads isn't as stressful. Trying to deal with everything is not so bad. Not to mention, like, we have a place now, right? We have our own apartment that we can call home for a while. However long that may be, we've been able to slow down and really catch our breath and take it easy and feel good and actually go to the ocean here, because we didn't do that when we were in Manila. And just really comprehend the idea that we live here now, full time. And while we're going to go back to the US every year, we still need to be under the understanding that this is home now. And after finding that piece of property, while it's a lot more than what we wanted to pay, it feels good up there. I feel like we could build our home there and we could be really happy. And whenever we get frustrated with being in the Philippines for whatever reason, we can go to another city, we can go to another island here, or we could hop over to another country. We can go to Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Australia. We could go to Scotland and Ireland, and again, back to the US to go visit our family and friends and spend time back in the culture and the country that we know, right? We're not stuck here all the time, which is good. But 3 months being here, man, 3 months. I swear it feels like we've been here for a year already, just because of all the running around that we've done. And now that we're in an apartment, G's been buying more things to make it more of a home, even though we don't know if we're going to get that property or not. Which we probably are. I think we're going to make it happen regardless of what we have to do. But right now we're actually waiting for a lawyer that we hired to go through and do a due diligence to make sure that the titling and everything else is kosher, that we can actually buy the property and not have an issue. If you don't know, a lot of property here in the Philippines does not have a proper title. And depending on the situation, you can have all sorts of different problems. Like, the property was owned by someone, but then they passed away, or the property is owned by technically like 7 siblings, and the titling isn't put together so you don't see it, and 4 of the siblings sign off on selling the property to you, so you pay this money, and then all of a sudden 3 others show up out of the woodwork and they say, well, we didn't agree to that, so you don't get to keep the land, right? All sorts of different situations. I'm confident enough in this piece that we should be all right for the most part, but it's my understanding right now that the foreigner and his wife who own it right now, they did not get it put in her name. And that, according to the lawyer, is going to take about a year to get done. And this door keeps hitting me. Stay back. So we will probably end up having a official bill of sale where we'll have it notarized and everything. It'll be legal. And he has already told us we can pay half up front and then the other half when the titling gets put in our name. So then I asked the lawyer, okay, well, if it takes a year, to get the titling done in his name, or in the owner's name, the current owner, how long is it going to take to get it put in our name after that? And he said, oh, it'll take 3 months. Okay, well, here in the Philippines, things take a lot longer than usual, so it could take 3 months, it could take 6 months. So we're looking at a year, year and a half before we even have the property in our name. So I don't know how that's all going to work out. To me, I'm thinking, okay, well, even though he has a bill of sale, probably with his name on it, or his wife's name on it, right? Foreigners can't own land. How can he legally sell the property to us when the title is in someone else's name? Does that mean that we have to wait a year for his name to be on the title, her name to be on the title, before he can officially sell it to us? Or can we do it now, and the titling process is just kind of like a formality and it's whatever? But these are things that we're working with the lawyer on to figure out if this is reasonable. And if you're wondering, lawyers here in the Philippines are a lot cheaper than back in the US and probably other countries. Although you definitely need to shop around. The first lawyer that we talked to was up in Karkar, which is like an hour and a half away roughly. And she wanted 165,000 pesos, which is about 3,000 US dollars. Again, a lot cheaper than back in the US, I guarantee it. However, our landlords suggested that we use their lawyer and recommended him very highly, as well as our neighbors who are using him for buying their property as well. And his fee was 20,000. So 165,000 versus 20,000. Of course, naturally, you're going to say, okay, well, there's a huge difference in price, so is he as good? And from everything that we've been hearing, he's fantastic. He knows what he's doing. He's been in the market for 14, 15 years, so it's not something that we have to worry about. But, of course, we're always going to be worried when we don't know how things work here, right? We're new to this. We don't know how to buy property here. In America, you use a realtor, and then they handle a bunch of the process, and then it takes like 30 days for all this stuff to go through. And then at the end of it, you go to the title company, and they transfer everything over into your name. 30 days, said and done, money's paid, everything's good, right? Here we gotta wait a year just for the title to get put in his name, and then another 3 to 6 months to get it put in our name. Like, that's not what we're used to at all. So naturally, we needed a lawyer to make sure that we're doing this properly and not having an issue. But that's just another part of living here in the Philippines that you may not know about ahead of time. And sure, we knew ahead of time after watching a lot of YouTube that we should definitely get a lawyer to make sure that everything is legal and good to go. But we really didn't know about all the different problems that could potentially happen in the meantime. And we didn't know the scale of how many pieces of property actually don't have titles. I mean, the best place to go to find property is Facebook. You go on Marketplace, or you can find specific groups like the Moabwal area. And you'll have a bunch of people trying to sell you the same piece of property, but they're not realtors. They are kind of just the in-between people who are trying to find a buyer, and then they get paid for helping out. And then with all these different posts that you see on Facebook from these people who aren't realtors, you'll see that, oh, it has a tax declaration. Okay, what does that mean? Well, it shows like how much the taxes have been every year and if they've been paid and everything. But that's not the title. So there's another hassle right there. And of course, if you guys saw one of our previous videos, the woman that we were talking to about buying a piece of property that was in her family's name, she said they spent 2 years getting the title fixed before selling the property. And because of that, they were raising the price of the property because it was all done and good to go and a lot easier to transfer over to the new owners. So it is worth something here. So I don't know, it's just a lot to deal with. All right, guys, that's my take on living here in the Philippines for the last 3 months. It's been kind of hectic. It's been kind of all over the place, but we're doing things differently than what other expats are. I know that there are plenty of expats who go straight to Dumaguete. They go straight to the city that they think they want to live in. But, you know, G and I, we were in Manila for 2 months, and we weren't going to live there. We never were going to live there. But we also didn't know where exactly we wanted to go yet. And having the truck full of stuff, having the dogs, and just having to travel around so much, like, it made it pretty stressful. So yeah, I mean, if you know exactly where you want to go, your stress level isn't going to be so high and it'll be easier for you. But if you're doing what we're doing, yes, it's possible. Just be ready for everything. And with that, I appreciate you guys following along with our channel. We appreciate your support. If you guys have any questions about what I've said today, please put them in the comments and we'll talk about it. I always try to reach out to everybody. I want to make sure that you guys know that we are seeing your comments. We do appreciate you. And hopefully when the channel grows bigger, I'll still be able to do that. I may miss some here and there because there'll be more coming through, but we're almost there, guys. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers. So that's huge for us. And I want y'all to just stop and think, okay, yeah, there are a bunch of other YouTube channels that have thousands and thousands and millions of subscribers, okay? But think about 1,000 people standing in front of you and all of them are following what you're doing. They're following your story. And that's incredible. So we just want to say thank you guys, because that's amazing and it's awesome. And we really want to put out good content, real content for you guys. We don't want to be influencers. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to give you information and entertainment. We want to show you what the Philippines is like. We want to show you our lives here and, you know, the fun, the good, the bad, the frustrations. So please reach out to us. Hit us up in our email, mabuhaylifeadventures@gmail.com, and definitely leave comments on our videos because that helps with the engagement and keeping our videos coming up to the front so that people will see them. But again, if you guys want to see a video on anything specific, let us know. If you have questions about any information, let us know. I hope that we can answer the questions. If not, we'll try and find an answer from somebody else. But again, thank you guys so much. And we hope to see you around here in the Philippines. Take it easy.